Hey, what's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to be doing my April TBR. The past month of March, I read 14 books, so I'm really pleased with how I'm balancing reading and getting some other stuff done. And I just think I'm getting a good rhythm going, and just hoping I can keep that up and continue reading a lot of books. And the way I do my TBRs is a little different. What I'm going to do is I pick out about a dozen books or so, and if I get through them, I get through them. If I don't, I don't. It doesn't really bother me now. But what I'm going to do, what I like to do is get a wide variety of books and just try to get as many done as I feel like I like to. And I'm going to try and cover a bunch of different topics, and we're going to just see how that goes. Alright, so let's get right to it. Alright, now each month I want to probably try and read one of my Osprey books that I've been collecting. I'm going to be doing the same thing for the Oxford Very Short Introduction series. Just because they're short, and I have a bunch of each series, I feel like I could just definitely read at least one or two each month just to go through them, since they're not too long and they cover a wide variety of subjects. But for this month, I'm either going to be reading the Norman Knight, 950 to 1204 AD, or Macedonian armies after Alexander, 323 to 168 BC. If you've never looked into these Osprey books, they're very short, usually like 50 to 60 or 70 pages, but they have tons of custom illustrations that are made just for these books, and they're super detailed and super accurate to whatever topic is at hand. For the Very Short Introduction series, I'm either going to read The Anglo-Saxon Age by John Blair, or it'll be Ancient Philosophy by Julia Annis, and it's just going to depend on probably whatever kind of mood I'm feeling like in the middle of the month, but we'll see. Now for a regular Roman history, I'll probably read The Gladiators by Fick Mayer, or Mayer, I'm not sure, I think that's Dutch, but I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but anyways, I got this book, I think, in the month of February, and I've been waiting to read it, and I've been reading a lot of books that are kind of dense and on the topic of the fall of the Roman Republic, so I figured I'd do a more cultural topical type history, and I'm going to read The Gladiators, which is just an inherently interesting subject, so definitely excited for that one. Now, I only read one fantasy book last month, which I want to try and do a little bit better about that, so I'm going to try and get two done this month, and the first one I'm hoping will be The Riddlemaster of Head, and I've already started it, and I'm enjoying it a lot, so hopefully I can just finish up this short book. It's definitely something quite different. Like, the main character, even though he's the ruler of, like, this little sort of city-state island thing, he's basically just, like, the chief farmer, to be honest. And that's, like, what he rules over is, like, a bunch of farmers and farmland. But he basically is also he loves, like, the pursuit of knowledge, and as the title indicates, he's a riddle master, and he's going off in search of an answer for something, so it's definitely interesting so far. The other book I want to get to is When True Night Falls by C.S. Friedman, and this is the second book in the Coldfire trilogy. I've read the first one, Black Sun Rising, and have a review, and I'll leave that down below, of that book, but it's just a super crazy, interesting science fantasy series, and basically the gist of it is on another planet, like, humans have sort of socially or technologically devolved back to basically sort of medieval Renaissance era type stuff, but on this planet your feelings can manifest themselves in the wilderness, basically. So if you're fearful or anxious, basically dark abominations will basically form because of that, and it's like a psychological thriller because of, like, stuff like that. Definitely enjoyed Black Sun Rising, so I want to definitely read When True Night Falls. Now, I'm definitely trying to get into the life sciences some more, and I've started When Elephants Weep. I've read, I think, the first chapter, and I've liked it so far. The author, Jeffrey Masson, writes really well, and I'm hoping he's going to put out some compelling arguments to the emotional lives of animals. And for another life science book, I'm going to be reading Other Minds, The Octopus, the Sea, and the Deep Origins of Consciousness by Peter Godfrey Smith. And Peter Godfrey Smith is, I believe, a pretty famous modern-day philosophy lecturer from Australia, I believe, if I remember correctly. But yeah, this book, I believe, is about how, like, octopi and other cephalopods have basically developed consciousness, obviously independent in the animal kingdom from ours, because the common ancestor between us is like so far back. But definitely sounds like an interesting book, and I want to definitely see the arguments and scientific data and all that stuff that he has collected. Now for two social type histories, even though this one definitely has a frog eating another frog, because it's Cannibalism by Bill Shutt, I believe this book deals with both animal cannibalism as well as a big portion dedicated to human cannibalism, and I just could not pass up a book on cannibalism, to be honest, so definitely excited to try and get through this one. For another social history book that I picked up, I think in my first book outlet haul, is A Brief History of Vice by Robert Evans, and I'm hoping this is just going to be like a nice humorous light read. The subtitle is How Bad Behavior Built Civilization, so I'm hoping this just kind of looks into, like, you know, bad habits and vices that humans have cultivated and developed over the years, and how they've actually sort of helped us in some other way, and basically how there's silver lining and everything. But yeah, this looks like a humorous book, and I'm hoping this will be a nice light read. Now, as you guys probably figured out, I really enjoy World War I. I talk about it quite a bit sometimes, and I definitely want to try and read maybe at least one book a month on World War I, if not at least every like other month or so. And for the first one that I might read this month is Rites of Spring by Modris Eksteins. And I think he's a Latvian, or he was born in Latvia, I believe, and lives in Canada. And this book, I believe, is sort of a cultural history of the war and how things in Western civilization basically changed from before World War I through World War I and then afterwards. Not necessarily too much on the actual combat of the... Well, I don't believe it's on the combat of the war itself per se, but on the cultural effects that the war basically put on society, if that makes any sense. But yeah, anyways, it definitely sounds interesting, and I'll definitely give it a read. Now, for the last book, and probably the one I'm most excited about getting, is I just got Collision of Empires, The War on the Eastern Front in 1914 by Prit Buttar. And this is actually the first book in a series of 4 on the Eastern Front of World War I, which I think is really interesting because the Eastern Front studies are a really big popular thing in World War II between Germany and Russia, but not so much on World War I, which I thought was really cool, and so I definitely picked this one up. It's pretty big, but also what I like about this book is I believe it doesn't deal with just Germany and Russia. And actually, I think this book in particular deals more with the Austro-Hungarian Empire and its battles with Russia, not just Germany. But yeah, this sounds really cool, and I'm really excited to start reading this series, and I hope it turns out really good, because there'll be 3 more where this one comes from if it turns out to be a good work of history. So there you have it, guys. There's 13 books that I might try and get through in the month of April. Probably won't do them all. And very small chance of actually getting through them all, but hopefully I get a big chunk out of these. Hopefully maybe like say 10 of them, get a good chunk out of these, and I think it has a pretty good spread of different topics. We got Roman history, fantasy, some ancient history, life sciences, and World War I, so all kinds of stuff in there. But yeah, hopefully I can read a bunch of them and tell you guys what I thought about them. And always remember, read victoriously.